All in all, hope you're well. Well, the old chap's been busy while I've been at work. He's scribed 2 lengths of nidaplast sheet into the deck. Obviously just a little bit to do at the end. But he's scribed the inside edge in. So obviously, you look there, and there, that's a steep angle. But he's scribed that all in lovely. And then he's cut some bits of timber to hold the deck down when we put the old bond and paste under it. A lot of people use weights, but we ain't got no weights. But as we've got the old lean-to above it, you can just prop against the lean-to. So that's looking good. The only thing we have got to do is that edge along there's a square edge at the minute. Well, if you try and lay over a square edge, that'll create a bubble on that lip. So we've just got to trim that edge round it off slightly. Then we can bond it down and start laying up. Oh, it's lovely to get near the end. But it's looking good. He's done a cracking job of scribing it in. Well, he was a chippy for a lot of years, so that's his forte really. But that's lovely and tight in that edge. I'm happy with that. If you look, that's a closer look to the edge. That's pretty tight in it. You can't argue with that. He's done a cracking job of that, scribing all that in. Obviously because that's 20mm thick, and you look at the angle of the hull, you got to cut the sheets at that angle to get it right in. But he's looking lovely. He's done a good job, bless him. But it is for his boat anyway. And there's a closer look at that square edge. But obviously you can't lay across here and go down with glass, or that'll bubble on that lip as that go round. So we're going to have to cut this at an angle all the way along and then fill it. Because once you cut it open, that leaves a load of gaps obviously between the little hexagonal bits of plastic in the middle. Well, that's some of the old nidaplast sheet, what he's cut at an angle, and you see it go a bit fluffy and open all the cells up. Well, if you laid over that, there'll be lumps and bumps everywhere. It wouldn't look very neat. So I can fill all that with filler first before we start laying glass on that. We're just doing a trial run of cutting it to see how it cut at 45 degrees. We haven't used this material before, so it's a bit trial and error. But you can see how it's cutting. Just trial and error really. That's just cutting the corner off. You can see it's a little bit fluffy, but it ain't too bad. It's just like cutting 45 degrees off the top edge to try and round it off. Well, if you look here and here, the old chap has just got some G-clamps and put a bit of wood there to stop the sheet from sliding outwards, like there. That's a little step there, so the sheet don't come away. So obviously that's on an angle on the edge, and if you put any weight on it, they want to slide towards the middle of the boat, but we don't want it to come over here. So it's just a couple of little stops to stop it from moving. Now the wooden frame is off the board, you can now see every 100mm pencil lines. So when he scribed it in, so better date them along this edge, so you can measure every 100mm. You measure the length, so that's how you scribe it in. Obviously it'll take a bit of fettling in there. You measure it all and you cut it, then you fit it, and then you've got to adjust the angle on the edge so it'll fit even better. But that's basically how you do it. Every 100mm, measure, measure, measure and cut. That'll take longer fettling in that edge with the angle on the edge of the hole there than actually do measuring and cutting the initial cut, but that's what it is. It's all about fettling and getting it to fit properly. Well, we just went over the edge of a sanding block just to take that edge off there and clean the cut up. If you look down there now, that looked quite rounded, so that's good enough to lay glass over. You just don't want no sharp edges. That looked pretty good now. That's good enough to lay glass over. You see that's rounded, lovely. Well, I just got the orbital sander out and went over all the top edges. As you can see, just take the surface off, because obviously top coat has got wax added into it, and that doesn't stick so well to the bonding paste. So I've just gone around all the top surfaces and sanded them. That only took 10 minutes with the orbital sander, just to take the edge off them, key them up, braid them so the bonding paste will stick well. That didn't take 5 minutes really. Well, probably about 15, but as you can see, soon all done and all hoovered out, ready for the bonding paste. Well, as I've never used bonding paste before, I thought I'll mix a little test batch first. There was two types we could buy, one with a gel time of 15 minutes and one with like a gel time of 60 to 80 minutes. Well, as you can see on the spatula, that was bright blue, but I mixed it up with 2% catalyst. Must be 40 minutes ago. That's still gooey. I started to go grey after about 20 minutes. And it's been about 40 minutes now, and it's starting to thicken up a bit. But I just thought I'd just do a test batch to see the gel times. Must have been 40-45 minutes now, and that's still workable. So if you do a little test batch first, because you never know, they could have mixed up the barrels and you got a fast one or whatever. And if you've never dealt with it before, you can, if you do a test batch, you know what you're dealing with. So it's been out 45 minutes and it's still workable. So we'll have plenty of time to mix it up and lay that out. Well, we'll just rub down the back of the nidaplast sheet ready for bonding in. You can see the chamfered edges on it. They're highly chamfered, obviously, to fit the shape of the hull. So what we've done is we've rubbed down around the edges, rubbed across where the ribs are, and rubbed the inside edge. So basically all where it's going to sit down on the ribs and stringers in the boat. So that's all rubbed down. You've got to give it a little bit of a rub down with a bit of sandpaper on the block, just to key the edges up. Well, I've just got the brush out in a bit of acetone and gone over all the top surfaces just to reactivate the glass. You can see where I've gone through the gel coat or flow coat and I rubbed it down, but that doesn't matter. I'll give good key, so that's all ready to go. See, look, that's all clean there and activated, and it's a bit tacky compared to that stuff that I ain't done. But we're only doing the bow section to start with, so that's enough. Well, it's been an hour and 5 minutes since I mixed the paste up as a test pot, and that's definitely getting thicker now. That's a bit like, I say like treacle, but it's always like treacle, but that's definitely started to thicken up and gel now. So it's a long enough time, hour and 5 minutes. Look like good stuff. Look a bit like P38 sort of thing. Well, the bit of glass nidaplast is now in the boat. I just acetoned where the ribs and stringers go on it, so that's all ready to go. But most importantly, look how bright and colourful that is. That's all the play pit balls we're using in the sealed compartments. Or sometimes you get a bit of leakage through the deck, but not obviously in good condition. The biggest issue why you get any water inside them is due to condensation. Well, if you put all these play pit balls under the deck sealed, that keep all the air out. There's a lot of air in there now because it's all taken up by the play pit balls. And unlike that two-part foam years ago, what break down after a few years and absorb water, these balls are never going to absorb water, are they? Because they're plastic, and we all know that's been chucked down our throat for the last few years. Plastic takes thousands of years to break down. Well, we ain't going to worry about this in the thousands of years because we'll be dead and buried. But doesn't that look pretty? There's about 500 balls there. That's a lot of balls, isn't it? But That look impressive. Should jump in them like a small child and have a play. Well, I've just mixed up the bonding paste and put it on. I've put it a lot thicker on against the hull of the boat because there's these deviations, but there isn't a huge amount of deviation on the ribs and stringers. First I mixed it up and spread it out. Just use the old chap's little bricklaying trowel that seemed to work a treat. But I have spilt a bit on my balls. But there you go. All ready to lift the sheet on. I'm happy with that. Well, we just stuck the sheet down on top of it and then put the wooden pieces in so we can then push it down and start to ooze out all the sides, so there's plenty in there. I did clean up that edge because that's only on going halfway across that rib, because obviously we've got to put another one on, another sheet on there going towards the stern. But I'm happy how it's gone. It's quite easy to use really. That's just like, it wasn't a problem because it's got a very long shelf life, over an hour. You can smear it on with a trowel and job's a good one. I was a bit apprehensive about using it, but that's easy. It's just smear like smearing wallpaper paste about. Easy peasy. Just got to give it time to go off now. That'll take a few hours I imagine, because it's over an hour just sitting in the bucket before it starts gelling. But I'm happy how that went. 3 more to go, eh? As the bonding paste is slowly being pushed out of the gap with the pressure from the wooden supports, they're coming looser. So you can see there in them old chap's head, there's some putting some extra plastic wedges in to make them a bit tighter, because as it's oozing out they're getting slacker. Obviously that will do, innit? You put force on it and that push the gunk out, all ooze out the joints, the boards are going slacker, so we're just putting a few more wedges in to make it tighter, then leave it overnight to cure.